Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:30 PM. If you can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call of board members.
Aaron's,
Here.
Milnick,
Here.
Slipsma,
Here.
Hester is absent, and Hoaxma present.
Okay, we're
We
here.
already tell you that she was not going to be here today.
Yes. Set, adjust, and approve the meeting agenda. I have one change. I'd like to add to new business zoning OS, which I left for each board member. Does anybody have any other changes to the agenda?
Not for me.
Nope. Nope. Okay, we'll proceed on then. Declaration of conflict of interest.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Sorry, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Aaron, seconded by Hoaxma. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None opposed. All right, declaration of conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with the content of today's agenda?
No. No.
No? All right, none noted. Public comment, time for public comment. You may step up to the podium and address the board on matters that are relevant to township government. Anybody like to make a comment?
Mike Jacobson, Muskegee Point Road. In the last 45 days, I found the grate on the top of the standpipe in the pond on Battle Creek natural area plugged to the point that the pond was overfilling 3 times. One of which the water was overflowing the abutment and flowing over the dam. Every time this happens, the embankment is weakened. At this point in time, it has happened so many times that the washout on the western side of the dam is starting to wash away gravel. This gravel is the structural material part of the earthen part of the dam. Simultaneously, the earthen part of the dam between the concrete abutment and the western edge of the earthen embankment is settling considerably, creating a visible sinkhole. This is not from erosion, it is from oversaturation. This is making each and every time the dam overflows more and more dangerous, especially for the people servicing the outlet to the pond, but also for the public that uses and enjoys the area. Because it is completely possible that a few steps in the right spot during one of these events could be the catalyst that causes the embankment to give way. I have a hard time believing that anyone would allow this type of dangerous situation to exist at a public facility, especially after being informed about it so many times. It's bad enough to put the township employees in this situation, but I wonder if you have ever considered the safety of a youngster who only sees a puddle of water to play in and doesn't understand the danger. I and your Parks and Recreations Committee have repeatedly brought attention to this issue and other safety issues around this pond with little to no results. Why the board won't address these safety issues to protect the public and our great natural resource is beyond my comprehension. It is clearly a leadership issue. I often wonder if any of the board members have ever taken the time to walk down there and see for themselves what is happening there. If you're going to dismantle the Parks and Recreation Committee, then you owe it to yourselves and the community to physically inspect all of the park lands and amenities personally. Part of your job is to protect our great natural resources and the public. Remember, health, safety, and welfare is what zoning is all about. That goes for every part of the community, not just your own personal portions of it. I would like this part of my comment to be recorded in the minutes. Because when this dam gives out, I want there to be proof in the written minutes that you have been repeatedly told about the damages that are going on down there. I find it ridiculous that we can't take the time we're spending all this money on all these other things, and we can't take the time to save a very precious piece of land. You're gonna lose that dam and you'll never rebuild it. It'd take a few yards of gravel in a few yards of some topsoil or maybe some heavier soil. Somebody with more knowledge than me should be talked to about this, not me. And then it's a simple matter to fix the grate. It's a 1 inch by 4 inch hole grate that lets the water through. All it takes is a leaf to cover that grate, and now you have a problem. It's like 23-inch pipe, okay? The pond naturally has debris in it all the time. Pond scum, reeds, leaves, every storm that blows through blows leaves and sticks in there. There are sticks and logs and brush. There's beavers in the river. I myself have seen a beaver in the pond already this spring. So I know you have a guy going down there and watching it, but he can only do with what you give him. If you don't give him the materials to fix it, he can't do nothing about it. And it's something that needs to be looked at each and every week. Sometimes the year, I think it probably needs to be looked at more than once a week. I mean, in the fall, when the leaves are all coming down, it takes nothing to plug that grate. You have a whole community of things to take care of, not just short-term rentals or not just all these other issues that come up. There's already a community partial here that needs to be taken care of.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Can I
Mike.
ask him a question?
Yes.
Mike, why was the pond, you've been around long enough, why was the pond created in the first place?
It was created on private land by a private individual.
Well-
I don't know his reasoning.
And my second question is, if the pond wasn't there anymore, if the dam was removed, like they did on, the Boardman River, what detriment would that be to the area if the pond wasn't there anymore? It's just a question. I don't.
Well, I don't know that it would be a detriment to the area, but that's part of our parks. And that's a beautiful place. Have you ever been down there?
I have not been out in the pond, but I'm just saying, if the pond wasn't there, is it a detriment to the area, or is the pond needed for some reason?
I don't believe the pond's needed for any reason. Like I say, it was made by a private individual on private land, and the township has acquired this land. And with the land, they should take care of the amenities that are there if they're going to call it part of their park. The detriment that would be is if the pond is allowed to break and flow out of there in an unrestrained
No, I
mode,
understand that.
there will be big detriment.
Yeah, I get that.
But if you drain the pond, then you're just taking away from the community a great natural resource that we have.
Okay, who else would like to make a public comment?
Rachel Steelman, Chris Road. I'm here to address inaccurate statements that have been made during recent meetings. First, I do not post anonymously. If there is ever a question about whether I posted something, I would appreciate the professional courtesy of being asked directly. I stand behind everything I post. Second, this is a small rural community, and like any other family, secrets always have a way of emerging no matter how hard you try to hide them. My post regarding unauthorized payments came from multiple sources, none of which were township board members or employees. And while comments made during the May 28th meeting characterized Facebook posts as quote unquote rude and inflammatory, the facts have emerged. Third is the larger concern of transparency, namely what appears to be an ongoing effort to keep information from the public. This concern is best illustrated by the release of the legal opinion, which I applauded. During the March 31st special meeting, the board agreed to make the opinion policy available. That commitment was repeated at the April 14th meeting. The term make public is defined as to disclose, publish, or release information, data, or resources so that anyone can access them without needing special permission, qualifications, or prior clearance. The community expected to see this document in your next packet. Yet when a resident asked about it, we were told it required a FOIA. If this was required, it should have been in the motion. When the legal opinion was not in the packet, I requested it, obtained it, and shared it. Doing so saved your office from processing numerous individual requests and ensured residents had access to information the board had already indicated would be public. Suggesting that the document was shared improperly ignores the board's own statements and roll call vote. You are correct. It was shared improperly. It should have been posted by the board. Residents deserve clear and transparent access to information and accountability from their elected officials. That is why I post information. Finally, I am also concerned by the increasing tendency of some officials to make disparaging remarks about former township employees and volunteers or the work they did. This is disrespectful of their service, undermines public trust, and serves no productive purpose whatsoever. It is also quite often inaccurate, or at the very least, ill-informed. These examples represent only a small portion of the concerns raised over the past 14 months. Our township residents deserve better. We do not feel that you hear us. We do not feel that you are listening. And what we are seeing makes us even more concerned about what else is being hidden. If any board member or resident has a concern, accusation, or question involving me, I'm easy to reach and I'm happy to have the conversation.
Good evening, Julie Zenas, Skegmog Point Road. Question, last meeting, we talked about the ethics agreement, and at that point, it was thought that maybe one of our board members had not signed it, and there was going to be follow-up, so I'd like to, hopefully during the board comments, we could have a discussion if that's been done. And secondly, wasn't planning on talking about it, but Mike, you're right. We walk back there in Battle Creek. And at times, depending on if there's been a lot of rain, if there's been whatever, it absolutely floods and that grate is in bad shape. We've actually walked back there for the last 20 plus years and it's getting worse and worse and worse to the point you don't know if you're going to get past that. So I just want to confirm what Mike is saying and the importance of that's part of our parks and do we or don't we support it? So thank you.
Kim Mangus, Brown Bear Lane. I know you're not supposed to respond, but you have a significant meeting coming up, the 30th. I believe it's 6:30, being held in Elk Rapids on the civil infractions ordinance. I was hoping to encourage the board, if you do not already have plans, to make sure that there's adequate information and advertising for that meeting. It doesn't make any sense to have that meeting with less than 10 people, 10 members of the public. I think the meeting over at the school indicated that there's significant public interest in this. So I was hoping to encourage the board to take out a half-page ad in the Elk Rapids News. Thankfully, it now comes to all residents, which is a wonderful thing. But this is a significant event. I know the board's always trying to pay attention to not overspending, and publishing can get expensive, but this is an item that merits that. I think that's the very least you should provide the public with information about where the meeting is. The fact that it's not being here is also significant. So a map on the door would be a very reasonable offering in addition to advertising. Thank you.
All right, would anybody else like to make a comment? Okay. Moving on to reports and presentations. The first thing we have is 2025/2026 fiscal year trial balance sheet.
It's got my name on it. And some board members probably have never seen this report. This report is the basis of the audit. You have a trial balance. It has every fund. It has the assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, expenses. This report does not show the revenue and expense compared to budget. That's a separate report that's in this packet. And then there's also, when he provided a separate balance sheet that's standalone. But I thought the important thing about this report is to show that, in my opinion, I don't believe that if I saw an email from the auditor, they had 7 of 39 documents so far for the audit. Don't know what the status is of that because I'm not in that loop usually. But I don't believe that we're in a position to be audited at this point because I don't think that our balance sheet is in order. And as we go through this a little bit, you'll be able to see why. And the reason I'm kind of bringing it up is not to make a decision at this meeting. Maybe we can defer and discuss it more at our business meeting at the end of the month. But I don't know when the audit's going to start. As I've stated before, the original budget is not accurate in our current BSNA program for the prior year. The amended budget is inaccurate. And the balance sheet is not accurate. So with the cash, the one thing that I noticed, and I can click on this, but I don't know if people it's going to be kind of small. I didn't see in here, and this is more of a treasurer issue, doing a journal entry to give to the clerk. But so I just didn't see where interest was recorded for the month of June in the general fund. And then I noticed too with the FCB savings, there hasn't been any interest in here since December. So I don't know if the treasurer hasn't provided a distribution of interest to the clerk to do the journal entries, or if the journal entries haven't been made. So I know that the auditor did state that they will not begin the audit until the bank reconciliations through the end of March were completed. And I think when we talked to the CPAs last, that they did indicate that they did complete everything through March. So interest should all be recorded, I think.
Can
And
I ask a question though?
Sure.
If they didn't finish the reconciliation until the close of the fiscal year, can those even be updated?
Yes.
Mhm.
So can I talk? Yeah.
Well,
Well, I think,
let me finish my presentation because this will end up being this thing, and I'm not trying to
I'm so
be,
glad you're bringing this out to the public as well.
yeah, but I'm not trying to be critical of you. I am, my job, and it's been pointed out by the public, is fiscal oversight, and this is what I'm doing. And so this is the way I guess we have to do it. So with accounts receivable, this is an interesting thing. It's $4,085. There's no activity for the entire year. This balance is from the prior audit. So there's an accounts receivable from the prior year that we never received, and so it should have a reversing entry. There should be something in the current year that records it in the proper revenue account, and then this would basically be zeroed out. And then due from other units is kind of the same thing. There's been no activity for the entire year. Due from who a year ago. And so we're understating our revenues by $46,000 in some category, but I don't know where. For these, there's usually like a subsidiary ledger, and the auditors want to test those and look at them and that kind of thing. There's this 12-cent thing that just needs to be written off. There's this overpay of $5,112. That's no activity for the year. It's from the prior year. And I don't even know what overpay means. So I'm not sure what that is.
so these are all things that both the treasurer and the clerk have actions.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure who.
But I think it would be appropriate to let Wendy
Okay.
answer that bucket of
Okay,
questions.
for those assets, okay.
So there has been talk between myself and Angie, the CPA, and it was stalled for a long time because they were not paid. And she finally got back to me today because I had questions about some of these exact things as well. For instance, I think there's still things from the conversion that were wrong. According, like, what you were talking about before, like the accounts payable is backwards basically in there. So I have questions into her and ask her, is this conversion? Is there something wrong in BSNA? So I have been working on all that. I just feel like if you would have come to me a little in public is a little, sketchy. It does seem like you're trying to get me. And there's a lot of things in here that are like cash receipts are not put in correctly. And the interest rate is all supposed to be put in to the cash receipts, which makes a journal entry, which then I double check. That is the treasurer's job.
Yeah, continue. Okay, so like you said, accounts payable has not been reconciled for the year. And one thing that I did know is like when you're kind of going through the middle of the year and you realize, oh, we posted this into the wrong account, and there would be a journal entry that would move it, to the correct either fund or account or whatever. But then the offsetting entry would go to accounts payable. Well, accounts payable kind of takes care of itself when you write the check. So really, that should only just be a revenue expense kind of an issue and then cash. But that's what's making your accounts payable debits. And last year, at the end of the fiscal year, I went through and I had a detail of everything for the entire year and was able to cross-check everything. And we found a few things that needed attention, but I didn't see that that's happened this year.
So the fact that you're saying there's $19,000 in there, there's a number of transactions that make that up. That should be
Yeah,
zero.
Well, if the auditor just asks what makes up that 19,000, I don't think that we could give them an answer, is my opinion.
You can't click that.
Well, we can click it, but you're not gonna, it's made up of a multitude, it's all year. I mean, this is the biggest account.
But it's calculating a differential, correct?
Yeah, so if you go to the very end of the year, I mean, this has everything in it.
Okay, so Wendy
and
just,
so
said she thinks it's a conversion.
I don't believe that's true. So then if you go to due to other funds, that should have a credit balance. It's got a positive 29,855. And so I don't know why. And that was just on 3/24/26. So due to other funds should be a credit, not a debit. So I'm not sure what that is about. There's this payroll tax, $5,050 that no activity all year. This is from a year ago. And that, I don't know what that is. That needs to be reconciled. The one thing that I did want to point out, and this Randy might want to hear this part. So the escrow, this involves this original balance of $3,500. And if I go any larger, you're not going to be able to get the whole thing on the screen. But so that includes Bags Partners from 4 years ago. And that money was that money was all detailed by Ardella of where it was all spent. It was made basically legal fees. So that money shouldn't even be in this escrow. It should be taken out of there and put as reimbursement revenue.
All of it should not be in there probably.
All the prior stuff, right?
I mean, all of it now.
And so I don't know if part of the Steelman's issue that we recently got a FOIA on, I don't know if any of that money is in here that hasn't been reconciled, but you will see that. So there's been some invoices on here. There's been amounts, and we talked about this, we budgeted for it, where like AIS, we hired engineers like Gordy Frazier to do work for special land use permits. Right.
Yeah.
And then the idea was they were going to pay an amount in an escrow, and then we were going to, basically they're paying for their own engineering. And then, but I don't think that the way we're doing it is proper.
How do you suggest?
So I think that we budget, and I thought we did. I think that we budget for the expense. Gordy Frazier should be a professional service as an expense under Planning Commission.
I think those are labeled incorrectly. They were credited by the treasurer and labeled incorrectly.
These are invoices, Wendy.
Then they should not be on an escrow account.
They are. So when you made the payment,
So
well, I just want
let
to,
me try to help on this. conversation a bit in terms of escrows. I don't know if in this system we can separate out individual escrows, but that would be helpful for each project as opposed to lumping them all together so that that way, you know, when you ask for an escrow of $1,000 or whatever, and you have the bills, you can then send back whatever the balance is. The escrow that's put in there from the applicant is simply an estimate of the fees that are required.
I don't think that we can track it in BSNA. We are just using an Excel sheet.
I've done an Excel sheet. I mean, there's only like typically
Yeah,
3 or 4
there's not many.
transactions.
But what should happen then is though, the professional service should be an expense as a professional service in the planning commission department. And then what you would do is you take this as an example, 991.25, you would take that out of their escrow and put it as reimbursement revenue.
To the planning commission.
No, it'd be general fund because they're part of the general fund.
Oh, because
So,
they're
yeah,
buried within it.
Yeah, but another way to do it, Randy, is and I agree, the Excel spreadsheet is just basically is a subsidiary ledger. The other way that you could do it, and I know BSNA has the capability, so you have this deposit escrow, you could have a 255 .00, 0.01, 0.02, and you could put each one in their own and kind of track it that way. But I think the first way you talked about it with the Excel sheet is proper. So that basically at the end of the day, what you want to do is show the auditors, this is what makes up that $4,708, period.
I think it most importantly too, you want to show the applicant
Well, yeah,
where the money went
Right.
to. So it's not.
but my focus is on the audit right now, but yes. Because now to piecemeal it back, you have to kind of go back, maybe even over a couple of years, right, to fix it. So the wages payable, we're almost done, is again from a year ago. And this was actually an entry where I created it, Wendy entered it, and this was the actual accrue for wages and benefits payable. And it was for every fund, fire, park and general fund. And in April of 25, it was supposed to be reversed. So we've really understated our expenses all year. But more importantly, I created the same thing for the current year, and I gave the reversal to the clerk 2 or 3 times, and the clerk did not enter it. I even copied the auditor on the last one that I sent, and I said, you know, if you question why this needs to be entered, please ask the auditor. The auditor responded and said it needs to be entered. If I have to respond again, it's going to be out of scope services and I'm going to charge you for it. So it still hasn't been entered, and I created an accrual for the current year. And that has not obviously been entered. So this is not correct.
So you're still saying it's not a smear. So can I respond?
Yes, but I would like your comments to be focused on the data, not editorialized.
I don't need a little pat on the back. The journal entries that you have given me, if we're going to talk about journal entries, have sometimes been wrong. And so I have second guessed them when I put them in, then you come back and tell me that they're wrong, but I just did what you said. So then I started looking at it for myself and talking to Angie. And then I got interrupted by people not looking at their email and the invoices not being paid. And so now we're at a standstill where we're still trying to get stuff done and this is not completed. And now you're sitting here, you know, picking at it when I have had my hands tied and I haven't been able to talk to her. She didn't talk to me back. So I would like to get this stuff done, Angie, the CPA.
Oh,
And also that whole payroll thing that they told me that most new clerks do not know how to do that. And the auditor would happily do that. So they would do the write-off themselves.
Are you referring to that $9,800 item? Is that what-
5,001 or whatever he was saying, that was the itemized journal entries that he gave me that I did not do. I am
So-
officially the one that is responsible for this. I understand that. I'm trying to do it to the best of my ability. I haven't had 40 years of being a politician and an accountant to know how to like control things. I can't look at this and say, oh, that's wrong. But I am trying my best and I'm doing what I think is the right thing to do. I am using the CPAs and taking Department of Treasury webinars as much as I can and trying to learn all this. And it is a lot. It's a lot. All this is I can't just sit in my garage and look at it either. So I'm here every day doing all these things, getting interrupted, doing assessing things, doing land use permits for people. I mean, like, I have tons of questions. I already had so many people call today about the cleanup day. So this
So,
is not my
Linda-
only thing.
Linda, this is point of order. This is not an attack on Wendy. This is simply me talking about audit preparation. And it's not intended to be an attack on Wendy. I am not responsible for how she's taking it, but I am responsible for informing this board about what I am finding. And I do.
So I think if we can continue to go
Yeah.
through this, I think at
I
the
only have a couple more things.
discussion, the point is what can we do to help? Because it involves all of us and we should use the knowledge and resources we have within the township to help with this. So,
And I do understand that the clerk doesn't have 31 years experience doing this, but I'm just saying that I do, and instead of paying $250 an hour to a CPA or an auditor, use what you got here, but
so let's continue on.
I'm 203. And I pointed this out several times, but I gave an entry to close this fund. It was closed a year ago. It has a negative cash balance. It has still $801 in street
These have
lighting.
all been done. These have all been closed and
I-
marked inactive, and I don't know why they still
I
haven't.
ran it today. I ran it when I
I
got,
think we understand that.
I
I
think
think the
that's-
point is
Just
there's
went behind me.
some issues.
There's too many hands in the pot. So there's,
nobody can post but you.
oh, that's not true. Angie can. So she's back there doing stuff, and then I do it too. And I think that's one of the things that got like kind of cross-entried, and both of us did it.
Let's look.
Okay.
A second. Let's look and see if it did. It would show here.
Not necessarily
Shows-
that one.
Well, that's the one we're talking about. So there's $801 that are not showing up in the general fund as street lighting expenses from May of 25 through September of 25 that never got recoded to the general fund. We have a negative cash balance in this fund that's closed, and now it's inactive. So when you run a balance sheet, it doesn't show up on your balance sheet, but when you trial balance, it does show up because it has dollar amounts in it. So I'm just saying, as an auditing tool, this is going to be a discrepancy, and it kind of makes me curious, and I would have to ask Angie about that, or you would, or somebody, that how then can they say that everything is balanced if this fund has negative cash in it and there's expenses in it? So I'm not quite understanding that everything balances with the bank statements. So that's a question. With the fire fund, same thing, accounts payable should have a credit balance. It's got a debit of 27,000, which means we more than we understated the expenses in the fire department there. Wages payable, same issue we talked about.
So can I ask you a question then, with your expertise? If it was set up incorrectly with a due to and due from, with the wrong correct way to set up the journal entries, could that have made those errors
With
in the
due-
conversion?
The due to, due from. I think that would show up in the due to, due from. I'm only seeing like the due, you know, how Richard said that, you know, when we come in, all the due tos and due froms have to balance, the transfers in, transfers out have to balance. And what I found, it does, other than pennies. I mean, 2 cents here, 12 cents there. So I don't think it's really due tos, due froms.
It's not from the conversion?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because the best I could tell, the conversion did have an issue with,
It's had lots.
and they always do,
Mhm.
right? But it did have an issue with like, the Medicare, right? Posting to the different funds. It was all
Mhm.
going to elections or whatever, but we got that fixed. And then I think they fixed it too, right?
Yeah.
So
So can I ask a question here? When we did the conversion that happened like last August, September timeframe, was there any effort from VSNA to cross-check the accuracy
No,
of that?
no.
Wow.
So bringing that up, I remember when we hired them, it was stated in the prior audit that we did not comply with the Uniform Chart of Accounts. Not in all areas, in some areas. So he didn't really specify what wasn't in compliance, right? So we responded to the Department of Treasury corrective action plan that, well, now we converted and BSNA fixed everything. Well, they didn't fix anything because I know that because I did the budget a year ago in the Excel spreadsheet and I had all the account numbers from fund balance and everything. Well, I did it this year and no account number changed and we were in BSNA. So they didn't change not even one account number. So I was talking with, I think, Steve Krinovic about that. And I said, they told us they were going to do this and then we did the conversion and nothing changed. So I don't know if we're compliant with the Uniform Chart of Accounts or not. And then he said that, or maybe it was Richard, the auditor, I'm not sure which, he said that the CPAs have a program, and of course you got to pay for it, right? But they have a program where you can put your current system against the Uniform Chart of Accounts and they can compare and make sure, and we might have to do that. And then it can convert all the history.
I've learned that BSNA will do that for you once for free.
So they told us they were going to do it initially and they
When you
did,
say they, are you
BSNA.
talking BSNA?
Yes.
and they didn't.
And they assured me that we were in compliance now.
We're not.
Mhm.
So I'm
So
just
how
saying.
do we, so you know we're not.
Circle back to being.
Because I didn't change anything. Richard
Well, we got rid of 203 and 209 or,
in 204.
yeah,
But those were just funds.
Right.
But the account number structure never changed from last year's budget to this year. So I know that the SNA conversion changed to nothing. They just simply did a straight up conversion. And so that's a question that you'll have to talk to them about. Maybe Marissa, was it Marissa? And just say, this is what we were told you were going to do for us. And nothing changed. So we're going to have that issue again with our audit, I think. But I don't know specifically what account numbers don't touch. I mean, I didn't go through everything in that.
some of the things were like cemetery were supposed to be,
Yeah, it's a different kind of fund. And we put it in the general fund, which I think still is okay, but whatever. Okay, and then last one, park fund, same thing with the accounts payable as a debit should be a credit. Oh, this is kind of a big thing though, that we need to fix. The wages payable, sales tax payable, this is as of 3/31. There shouldn't be a balance in there because everything should have been paid to the state. And then if you go down a little bit, there's a sales tax expense.
yeah.
It has a credit, which we don't record sales tax as an
so-
expense.
Would you let her answer that?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why that is. If you click that, I'd be interested to see why that is.
I think it just needs to be. There's an entry for that exact amount right here, State of Michigan Treasury. Maybe it was just miscoded. I don't-
Yeah, it's misappropriated, yeah, but only part of
I
it.
see a debit here, and a credit here. I don't know. So that just has to be looked at. And then the other thing that's most important for the audit. So what we did different this year is we started collecting reservations February 1 instead of April 1 as our new fiscal year. So we never had to worry about this before. But all of the reservation revenue from February and March is in here. So this fees charged $395,000. That's way overstated. Like 200,000 of that belongs in the current year that we're in right now. Or not maybe that much, but close. And then reservation fees would be the same. That's overstated. And then the only other one is credit card processing fees are too high because it includes the fees for those. So you have to, I think I sent you a journal entry for it you have to set it up as unearned revenue in the prior year. And then in April, like April 1, do a journal entry to reverse that so that it gets in the right year.
Tim, what is that? Credit card processing fees, 24,000?
Yeah, that's, there's a fee for when people pay with a credit card reservation.
We're paying that. Is that-
Well, it's a pass through.
So,
It's an expense. We pay the credit card company, but
I remember seeing that Angie had already done that, that journal entry, and I think that there might be some out there that aren't posted. So that might be something.
Maybe. Yeah, but that revenue is way too high, of course, right? Because that showed we had like a $200,000 profit last year when you run that revenue expense report, when we get to that part. And we only make about 80 grand on the part. So that's way too high right now. So that was the reason I wanted to put the trial balance in there, just to say there's other things out here. And this is kind of a main document, and the auditors will be testing accounts payable. They're going to be looking for the list of, this and that, and they're going to say to the clerk, well, pull this invoice. We want to make sure it has all the right paperwork and, whether it needed board approval or yada, yada, whatever.
Last year we had to pull all those.
Right. And they're going to do it again. And then the only other one, what is this, recreation? 209, well, those offset, that fund is closed, that's fine. I did notice that, I think that, is it Angie? Said that they still have not balanced the tax account, right? And you can see that in here when you look through the details. And then my hope is this coming year, this federal fund is closed, but it's got a little change in there. My hope this year is that we can do what the auditors recommend and that we close this impress payroll fund and just start doing this, Wendy, right through our general fund. It'll make it so much easier for you instead of having this payroll clearing account. We just don't have that many employees that we need this kind of a fund. And you just set up all your pension withheld, your accrued payroll taxes, you just do it within the general fund, and then it just, so that's all I have.
So, and I leave it up to the board if you want to defer this to board discussion later, but I guess my question is, we've got the resources of Maynard Casterison. I will, by the way, check into why they stalled out on helping you to understand the real reason why that is, because I was told back when I addressed the late payment on the invoice that would not impede their support. So I will follow up on that personally. But I guess my question is, Tim does have knowledge of this. It seems as though, and I realize you've got Maynard Casterison helping you with it. But the question is, what's the most efficient thing to do to support you in this, Wendy? Because I understand the workload of this and the need to start the audit as soon as we can so that it can be completed by the deadline in September. So what can we do with our in-house resources and our Maynard Casterison resources?
I think you reaching out to Angie, because she did just reach out to me today saying that she was going back through her email. So I don't know, maybe a little push from you too would be helpful.
Okay,
That He would
do that tomorrow
I
morning.
had about 3 or 4 emails that she had never answered. And with questions even of like, is this correct? Am I gonna do this the right way?
But how, and I heard what you said about possibly you're walking on each other on
Mhm.
transactions. So
That's why I
how
kinda
do we
wanted
get
to
through
keep-
that?
That's why I wanted to keep in contact with her. Like, what are you doing? I want you to know what I'm doing so that she doesn't, do the same thing.
I mean, is there support that you want for Tim? I mean, Tim could certainly sit and work with you on this as well. I don't know.
But she
I don't
still
know
has
the
to know
work the
about it,
way
though.
you know about it.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I believe that she was already on the same track, and
Mhm.
then I just never heard it back.
So maybe you and Tim should meet with Angie to just make sure, because,
True.
the calendar's burning.
Right.
And I know you have an election coming up too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just concerned about making sure that you have enough support to clean it up, and Jill will be
And
back on
quickly.
the 18th, to clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up on her end. But I am similarly concerned. I'm not sure how we say we're balancing the books and then we have stuff like this hanging out there. And I think it's important to understand what's the proper standard work. Should you be looking and now I'm going to ask you this question, Tim. It sounds to me like you should be looking at this kind of a report every month. Is that correct? Because if you let it build up to the end of the year,
Correct.
and worse yet, if you let it build up until after the close of the fiscal year, that's a very inefficient way to do something. You've got this whole load of stuff from 12 months. And then you're also trying to conduct your current business. I mean, it's piling up rework.
So I will say, we're not the only township that has to use services of a CPA. East Bay still uses a CPA for different things at different times. And that's where we ended up getting the recommendation from Mina Costerison. And nobody expects, I don't think, that you should know all of this stuff. And it's no shame to ask for help that you don't know how to do it. But with that, I don't think that to ask our auditors, they're not going to be in a position, they've already even stated it. They can't go in like with some of those things I talked about and reconcile like accounts payable or things like that and find out what doesn't balance. That's kind of an Angie thing because they can't audit their own work.
Right,
You
exactly.
know, so we would need to hire a CPA firm to get our books in a position to be audited by an independent auditor. Right now, and
We
that
thought
was,
that's what she was doing.
well, she was reconciling bank accounts. Their charge, and maybe why she hasn't gotten back to you, was to look at payroll and that everything that was paid in payroll tied back to what was approved by the board and what was on the payroll sheets that we approved by the board. And that was the extent of payroll and really your office. And as far as and the other part of their work was reconciling all of the bank accounts through the end of the year. And and then to provide training, I believe, right? But I don't know what they would train you on because they already did your part, but they're going to provide training to the treasurer about how to balance through BS&A of the bank statements. So I don't think that we as a board charged them with doing anything further than that as far as helping us prep for
that
the
might be
audit.
Reason why, if I'm asking for help, she's like, this is
Right.
just an extra thing.
That's not part of they have not been asked to do that. So that, because they wouldn't want to do it and then say, well, we didn't ask you to do it. We're not going to pay you. But that's a discussion, maybe, think about it over the next couple of weeks and see, and maybe you talk to the auditor and say, here's where we're at. This is what we have. I know you owe them more records. And let Richard tell you, these aren't ready to be audited yet. I just don't want to be in the same position we were last year where we paid a lot more money for the audit than we needed to because the books weren't ready to be audited. So our audit is not due to the state till September 30. It's not too early to get it fixed and get it right. And if we have to spend money to do that, then we have to spend money to do it. So you don't have an option. This is just how it is.
So I can follow up with Angie and Steve Krinovic. I still think that, I know, Tim, that you could look at this report with your red pen and you could like immediately identify everything. And I just think it would be really helpful if.
But I can't give the answers, is what I'm saying. I can't know what that balance means, what it represents and where it should go.
But you can see the indication of a problem because
Yeah.
you're so accustomed to looking at this.
You can flag the issue, can't you? I mean, you may not have the
But it's
details
gotta
right
be
now. but-
researched into prior years about what is this, that kind of.
Right.
And all that goes back to the conversion that we went through with BS&A in the first.
Some of it, yeah. And
Yeah.
some of it, you may have to look in fund balance, right, to figure it out.
You still have access to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is a lot. So I think definitely I will get a hold of Steve and or Angie or whomever tomorrow and make sure that they can support us and make sure they understand, the level of the problem. Might need you two to help explain those details, but I can make the initial call first thing tomorrow morning. Because, clearly, I had been purely looking at the revenue and expense report, but some of these other special accounting things that have to be moved around.
Well, I've been aware, but I just have gotten no feedback.
Okay. All right, I might need a little bit of detail from you at the end of the meeting about that. Okay, so is that it for you? Do we need to look at this balance sheet or do you need to explain any of that to us,
That's-
Tim?
Well, that she included a balance sheet and a revenue and expense report. We kind of covered the balance sheet, which is going to be the same as what Wendy provided.
Just in a
Um,
different form.
Revenue and expense report, I'll go to that. That's just going to be compared to budget. And I think Linda, you said, I think you're telling me you had questions about. Now, one thing to keep in mind. Yes, we did have the treasurer's office was over budget last year and it got written up, right? And you had to do a corrective action plan on that we're going to do budget amendments, whatever. We have, and it's only if you're, they only track it at not the line item level. It's only tracked at the, let me get to one. It's only tracked at the, there's general fund at the department total level. So the only department that I noticed that was over budget by more than 10% is Township Board. But that's because if you recall, when we were doing, we wanted all of our professional audit and accounting services all put in the same line item. So you can see $9,600 was the budget amount for the original audit. And with CPA and additional audit services, it's 34,900. Well, that explains basically, I'm not quite sure why professional services a minus 5,703. You'll have to kind of check that, but
Took stuff away from it, like.
yeah, but it shouldn't be a negative. It should be zero if anything. I mean, because it's more.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you got to check that. Software support did not have a budget. This is an example where they're saying, we know what that is. And we just needed to do a budget amendment for it when we approved it, right? So this will be a write-up again in the audit. And again, it's going to be where when we do have these things, as you're going through and putting invoices in, and you're finding you get warnings from BSNA that you don't have enough money in this fund, that's what should prompt a budget amendment. If it not, but not for a small amount, because we're looking at totals here. We're not looking for, you can be a few $100s over in office supplies. I wouldn't do a budget amendment for that. We're looking at bigger things that are going to make the department total more than 10% off. So that was the only thing that I noticed on this, and it doesn't concern me too much if Wendy creates a line item for something that does not have a budget, because it makes it more clear to the public and us what it's for. You can certainly do a budget amendment if you want, but that's just properly classifying things. And then in the future, Wendy, the only thing I would do when you run this report for us and put it in the packet is check the box to eliminate zeros. Zero, because there's still like marijuana stuff in here. See this?
Yep.
You know, so just eliminate
So
zeros.
it just makes the report long without any
Yeah,
value.
it's just no useful information there. But so that was all I had on that, unless you had something.
Actually, you had answered the question earlier when I called and asked you about it. So yeah, there's some of those variances, but they can't be changed at this point, is my understanding. And so I guess you,
Unless it belongs in that fiscal year, we can still.
right. But that's
Change.
again, back to the whole concept of our end of month meeting. These need to be looked at carefully, not to point fingers, because it's all of our responsibility to be managing how this is happening and adjusting the budget appropriately. I mean, I think that's the big key of what's missing, and that was part of the corrective action.
So I
Tuesday.
think it's been partly a perfect storm. I mean, partly the conversion, getting to know different software, having different people put it in, what is the budget, all of it. And we've made a process now for a form. If Sarah, my deputy, finds out that something is over budget, she writes it down for me and gives it to me. And so I will, if I think that's an appropriate budget amendment, then I will pass that on. So
Yeah,
we're gonna keep much better eye on
Yeah,
it.
And
Yeah.
what is the policy? Is it the clerk recommends a budget amendment or the supervisor?
No, the clerk recommends it to the supervisor.
Okay, all right.
Supervisor recommends it to the board.
Okay.
So it does sound like things will get better over time as the conversions behind us, these corrections can be made. It's part of that process of, because before the treasurer's office had different software than the clerk's office, right? So there wasn't a clear way of reconciling things. Now it's
Yep.
one integrated software module that
Yeah.
you're both using.
Okay, so key actions here. Tomorrow morning, first thing, I'll make sure I get a hold of Angie and or Steve Krinovic about support for this, figure out, you know, what we need to do. We can certainly authorize something. I guess we should think about if we should authorize some money tonight. That would be the right thing to do to save more time. So,
Well,
Mark,
We should just,
We need a quote. I mean,
yeah, I don't think we,
I
I think we've got their hourly rates from prior things, and I don't think you want to change horses at this point. Is anybody thinking we should change CPAs at this point? I think
oh,
that would be
no.
Crazy.
No,
we should wait till the 25th meeting before we approve having them.
see how
Well,
much she
if-
thinks it's gonna
Depending
take.
on what kind of a response I get in the morning, I may be calling a special meeting on Monday if they're saying they won't move without a contract signature or something like
I
that.
just,
That's my
I
concern.
don't want to approve an open-ended, not
Right,
knowing what it's
yeah.
going to be. I don't know.
Linda, how much can you approve on your own without, to get them started on something? I mean,
Not
could,
much. What's it?
$7,500.
$7,500. I guess that's enough to get them going for a few days. Okay.
that might be a way to
So
go.
Yeah.
thanks for that reminder. Yeah. Okay, so we can do that, but I would assume they're gonna quote me very similar to the same rates. And all that really was a list of bill rates by the level of employee.
Yeah, and a lot of this is not going to be at that senior level.
It's more at that Angie level, and maybe, I'm trying to remember, the person in between her and Steve. There was another name. I have to look it up on my computer. Okay, any other additional discussion on that? Well, I know that was kind of painful, but thanks for everybody's patience on that. It's quite a bit. Okay. Next, we've got the consent calendar. So we've got on that meeting minutes, bills for approval, and we have no budget amendments. So does anybody want to remove anything from the consent calendar?
I don't have anything.
Okay, so I hear no.
I don't really necessarily want to remove it. I would just like to reiterate that public comment should not be in our minutes in such detail.
That's not detailed. That's summarized
Okay.
heavily.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Milnick, seconded by Aaron's. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unopposed? All right, unfinished business. First thing to talk about is moving of the recycling bins. And I think there's a document right at the end of the packet from Chief Morgan. He did some investigation. I think you guys have all read that. So I guess that's open for discussion at this point. Anybody have any comments?
Do we know what the setback amount is?
Well, to me, this,
15?
if you're looking from the road, this should be the side setback, which is what, 15 feet?
It should be 15 feet.
Mhm.
I
Which
mean,
there's plenty of.
I don't know. I mean, otherwise it's going to be 30.
Right.
But it's got to be a side.
Yeah, the standard side setback is 15 feet. And I think this is,
So
Okay,
that should
this-
meet it. I don't know. Okay.
or is it village over there? You want to look at the map?
The one thing I did want to bring up
In
is,
the village, it's.
and I talked to Josh about it, is my driving by there in the winter. I have seen snowplow trucks go there and have their lunch, but they don't plow it. And so this is going to have to be on
We will
our,
have to plow it.
will be on our route to plow. And Josh did tell me that they had issues last year and he's looking at getting a plow truck or getting a plow for a truck they already have. I don't know what. But so we might be able to do that internally. But that would be an issue. I saw your note about saving money and not doing the fence. I
think that's.
I'm concerned about stuff blowing around. I get that we're gonna have park employees going down there. Well, when they're working, they only work through September, or October. And we're gonna have, this is gonna be a year-round operation. So who's gonna service it in the winter months to make sure that the trash is picked up? The garbage truck people do a pretty good job. Your neighbor does a good job coming and doing it here. But I think the fence is necessary for,
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I don't know how
if it
you
costs,
can.
if it costs 7,000 whatever dollars.
I'd like to see a decent looking fence too, not some,
Well, just high enough. I mean, this is going close to another neighborhood.
it is.
And I think that we should
Sound.
put a high enough fence up. I'm concerned in the summer with tonight when I went by, there's a baseball game and it's packed in there. And I don't know, it's not the best location in the world. I don't love it, but I don't know where else we can do it. And I think if we took the service away, I think that it's so heavily used, I think the public would be very upset. My opinion, but
So, Tim, I know you worked on this some. Do you have any idea what kind of a time frame it would take before that could be moved?
as soon as I think that Josh still needs to meet with Trevor, I think it is, Travis, to determine if it has a proper base. I think it probably does. But then it's just constructing the fence and they just come in, they bring them in, whatever, and move them over whenever we want them to. But
So
then
you're
we-
thinking construct the fence before
Well,
moving?
and Tom already has a connection with the sign company because we want a sign here telling them where the new location is, and there'll be some signs over there saying no dumping, and we may want to consider, we do have electrical there that we pay for all year long. We may want to install a security camera that is monitored by the fire station. Would maybe not be a bad idea like we have here. So a couple things to consider there.
What about, a fence contractor?
There's a lot of them.
You have a park employee who's been putting up fence.
Okay, and there might be if we put up a fence, typically there is a small charge for a permit from Deb, so.
Yeah, I
Internal.
think the cost of the relocation is going to be within your and Wendy's spending authority. I would like us as a board to just make the decision that this is where it's going to go and move along.
Okay, so are you gonna do this with Josh's help? Or I'm just a little bit concerned about Josh with everything he's got going on.
I'll work with them.
Okay, so you'll support that as far as,
I don't think there's much for me to do, but yeah, I'll work with them.
okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion? We don't have one written in here, so.
No, but I'll make a motion that the recycle bins be relocated to High Prairie Park off of Elk Lake Road.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible. And further authorize the construction of a fence enclosure.
On 3 sides.
Yeah.
Well, not 4.
Well, I mean, I've seen gates
I
when they
know.
put that in front. That's not what we're talking about.
I know.
Okay, Kay, would you like to read that back?
Mr. Aaron's made a motion that the recycle bins be relocated to High Prairie Park off Elk Lake Road as soon as possible and further authorize the construction of a 3-sided fence enclosure.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And opposed. I have one last comment I'd like noted in the minutes on this. We need to notify the neighbors. And I would say in writing, and, Josh is over there all the time. He sees them. He should just let them know. I do know that Josh told me verbally that when he was speaking with GFL about this, he was getting a guarantee that they would only do this during normal daytime hours, none of this 4 a.m. pickup business.
Well, it'll be on the ground though, not on cement.
Right. And they're going to be single stacked. It's not
Right,
double.
and
They don't have to
also,
move them that much.
I'm hoping they don't. I guess I don't know for sure, looking at this picture, if they will still have to move them out and position them to dump them, or if they can just do it as is. I know they have lots of these bins set up this way in other places, Elk Rapids and Kalkaska, where they're just in a simple line. So I'm not sure exactly how they dump them, but. Okay. All right, boat wash update, Tim.
Boy, not too much of an update. So we did get a price of $7,500 to rework the engineering and design for the boat wash station. And both Linda and I, this was after Linda and I met with, well, just to back up a little bit for anybody that might be watching new. At the prior board meeting, we rejected the sole bid that we received of about $75,000 to construct the boat wash station at Whitewater Township Park. And Linda and I met out there with a couple of the trades, electrical and plumbing or well drilling. And we found a different route. We found some different things that could be done that could save money out there, eliminating the cement pad, doing joint trench instead of boring, and felt that it could be done at a much more reasonable cost. And after that, we asked the C2AE to redesign it with those changes that we requested. And they came back with the 70, well, we did a flow test and a pressure test and let them know that. And then they wanted $7,500 more to do redesign of it. Well, we already have $15,000 into engineering design. We had $1,500 with them for the discharge permit exemption, which we're still waiting on. And a thought was, and I did talk to C2AE and I talked to John and he thought we could do this. Really what we were looking at, Linda, was nothing more than what, like the underground electric project, where it would simply, you award the contract and we made some change orders in that. And you just process the change orders, right? Some cost more, some cost less. Some had to go to the board, some didn't. The changes we're making really are kind of change orders. And a thought that I had is that why can't we just directly hire the trades? You know, we have a Williamsburg electrical contractor that met with us that might be interested in doing that part of the work. We have a well driller that is very familiar with the park that met us out there that might be willing to work with the electrical contractor. So we can kind of have that part done. And then what we would need to do is find, I don't want to be the general contractor in charge of the trades. We need somebody, there's going to be some site leveling work, some other work that needs to be done out there. And we just need to find somebody to oversee it and work with the trades, schedule everything and whatever needs to happen. So it's kind of, you know, that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, there's not really, that is the update. I thought maybe in a couple weeks, there might be more to report. I reached out to one possible person that could do that. And I'll reach out to a few more and see if there's anyone that might be, it's a small project and everybody's very busy now. And so it's going to be difficult.
I think we realized that we could just do this like after Labor Day, right?
Oh yeah, it's going to be a fall project
Yeah,
now.
so I would just hope that most people aren't booked all the way to
Right.
the end of September.
I'm just saying, I don't think it's worth paying another 75. Yeah, I don't think it's worth $7,500 to redesign it. We have most of the stuff that we need. And, you know, this is simply changing the route of the water and the electric to a different location.
And they did confirm that the idea that we had, there's sufficient water flow, which is the question.
Right.
That's the question. And that was confirmed that you have way more water than what we need to just run that pipe. And it's a shorter distance. So
Yeah, extend it.
it
to
should
the
be
dump.
significantly less expensive. But it would just be, yeah, I think the key is, I think you can find the electrical and the mechanical resources. The key is, and we had already planned on purchasing a pre-manufactured shed.
Right.
So the big thing is just the oversight to pull it together.
Right. And the contractor to put the shed where it needs to go and then hook everything, you
Right.
know, everything gets hooked up and whatever. And to order the actual units, two power washer units and that kind of thing. So,
They're just shelf.
but we're gonna be waiting for this. There was an error from C2AE. We notified there was an error in the permit with MDEQ. And so they had to reapply or fix whatever the error was. I haven't heard anything further. So it's gonna be a while to get that anyway, but so we'll just look for somebody that wants to oversee it and see it through. I don't think that should have to be a board member.
So
It seems like a
Rest
lot
of
of
you
work
guys.
to get that done though, doesn't it? To coordinate this stuff, even though I understand the need to
I
not
think,
spend a ton of money on a small project like
I
this,
think
but
honestly, people buy these Amish sheds all the time. They get a gravel pad prepped and it gets dropped off and set. You know, I think that once the shed is set in the proper location. I mean, I even wonder if Hearst Mechanical, who does all our mechanical work, if they either are interested or know somebody.
Well, you order a shed with no floor in it. You don't need a floor. Just, you know.
I think you need a floor to keep the rats out of it.
Well, rats. We don't have rats in Williamsburg.
Sheathing around it or
Yes, we
something.
do. Yes, we do.
We
I
do?
saw a muskrat in my yard the other day.
Oh,
So do we need to do like an invite to bid? Is that what you're saying, like in the future or?
I think we just wait a couple weeks and keep reaching out to different contractors to see if they would be willing to just take
So
it.
your whole point is, and I mean, I thought of this too. I mean, $7,500 just to update these prints. I mean, I think it's just ridiculous. I'm actually pretty disappointed in
Right.
them on that. Because I feel like,
obscene.
I think it's ridiculous.
Well,
And
it's
it's just like, you know, I mean, it's not a great move on their part not to cut us a deal on this, but I'm not beyond calling John again and saying, are you really sure that you want to do this to us?
I did that.
And he said, yes.
So,
Just think it's career limiting move.
so they're still involved and we have a contract with them to do this, so we can't just go out to the public and say we need contractors
Oh,
at this
no,
point.
they're done.
No, they're done.
So we
They-
do
they-
need to make it
They
public.
produce the setup plan.
Yeah,
And so, but the thing is, they didn't produce the change,
well,
which
So,
really I
here-
could take my
answer-
red pen and draw it out.
Here's what would need to happen on the 25th. And in between now and then, I and you and whoever and you and whoever recommend people that would oversee this thing.
mhm.
And, you know,
This needs
for
to be made
whatever
public.
fee. And then what we would need to do as a board, knowing that it's going to be over our spending authority for sealed bids, we would need to, as a board, make a motion to waive the sealed bidding process. We've already gone through that once.
Mhm.
And then if the board authorizes waiving the sealed bid process, we'll just hire the trades individually and the general contractor. That's my thought.
And now one thing I would say is I think Wendy, you probably have a better handle on this than others, but we do have a number of general contractors that are in the township.
Mhm.
So, I mean, maybe we should, put a simple ad in the Elk Rapids News.
So that's what I'm
Having
thinking, like,
people contact us if they're interested in overseeing,
an equal opportunity to respond, yeah.
right, and, you know, provide their credential information and their availability for
Can
a
we vote
fall
on that?
project.
Can we vote on that now?
I think we can vote on that right now. I
You could
mean,
put it in ER News. That'd reach
I
everybody.
think that's almost just a consensus item. I mean, we just
Right.
put
yeah.
together,
Because we need to make it public and
put
have an equal
together,
opportunity for people to,
Right.
yeah, be.
and it's I think the hard part of this is the general contractor.
mhm.
Just to oversee and do a little bit of coordination for us.
We have the trades. They're interested, so.
Yeah. So is that consensus
Yes.
to put an advertisement? Wendy, do you need any help drawing that up from Tim? Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, advertising the Elk Rapids News and maybe run it for 2 weeks. I know we missed the cutoff for today's paper, so, okay, that'd be great. The next one is road speed sign update. Update on that, Tim?
Had enough of that today. No, I'm kidding. So, just to back up a little bit on that one. So we approved 2 road speed signs saying your speed is kind of a deal in our budget, and then purchased them, and they came in a few weeks ago. They're at the fire station. And it was originally thought, offered by the fire chief that he was gonna install them. The installation is more complicated than maybe you might think. And then there's the coordination with the supplier about setting it up and all this kind of a thing. And these are radar signs with 50-watt solar panels, so that they're good for the winter with the little sun that we get. Then it was kind of kicked back to me a week ago or 2, and I reached out to the road commission and asked for recommendations on who could do it. And the road commission, my contact, indicated that he would talk to the manager and maybe the road commission would do it for us. And that was last week. And then I didn't hear anything all week, and I contacted him today, and he said that they really would like to do it for us, but they just can't fit it in. They're too busy with flooding and all the flooding and whatever's going on. So he gave me a couple contacts, and I talked to both of them just before the meeting, and tomorrow I'll send both of those companies all the information, the specs and everything on these units. And they've done these before. I think one was called True Signs and one was Windmiller Electric. And so I'll contact, both of them, see what they want to offer, or what they would charge to do it. And likely, I don't even know if it'll actually have to come back to the board. So I did talk to Mark Taylor, and he a couple times today, and he did mark and had Josh look at it and approve where they want theirs, right ahead of Samuel's Farm by the Red Barn. And did you and Jim do that yet?
No, because Josh told me that Grand Traverse County Road Commission, you have to get a permit from them. And
Yeah.
then they send out an engineer, and the engineer is the one who determines where it needs to go on the road. So the actual people do not have any say in that. Miss Dig has to be called,
Right.
and then a general contractor has to be the one to put it in.
So that's what these people are gonna do.
Right, yeah.
They're gonna get,
But they don't know where to put it.
Right.
They have.
well, that's why I still think that you should go out and put it where you guys want it to be.
I
And
feel
what,
like I have a conflict of interest in that.
well, you live on the road.
That's why I have a conflict of interest.
Well, then have Jim do it then, because he's complained about the speed. And my thing is, you don't want to put the 25-mile-an-hour signs were probably at one end of the road or the other. Well, you don't want to put it there because it'll never light up to saying you're going this fast. If it's at the beginning, you got to put it in the middle, pretty much in front of your house. But so anyway, the contractor is the one that's going to fill out the permit, and it's a no-cost permit because it's government to government. And I'm gonna meet the contractors at the locations where we would like them. And then if they have any issues with the road commission, and they're the ones that are gonna be responsible for contacting Mystic. So that's how this kind of will work. And I think that the cost is gonna be within your spending authorities. So,
So these people have done these kind of signs before. They would know the rules of where they can put them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is there somebody else other than Jim that maybe could collaborate on choosing a location? Like one of the other people that lives along here?
Possible.
do you
Yeah.
want it in Vinton? Do you want it in
Well, I
Vinton?
think it should alternate maybe.
Maybe,
Yeah.
so 2 posts, so I seem to remember, it's been quite a few years, but Marion Saar had been very concerned about the speed on this road.
Mhm.
And that
There's
was
lots
with the
of people.
previous board.
These are gonna be cemented in
We
the
do.
ground. They're not mobile.
So maybe, I don't know if she's still interested in that, but anything you can do to network with the neighbors to find out, or even Jim, he could probably solicit feedback from some of the neighbors. And I do agree, especially in this small area, it would be smart to, potentially put
Well,
into,
removing the recycle bins will probably help this speeding as well.
well,
you know?
and the level of traffic.
Yeah.
Time. But I also know a lot of people, I spoke to somebody in the last week that was just concerned about traffic and everything, and just commenting on how many people come down Whitney Road because it's so hard to turn out onto
Mhm.
72 if you're trying to go into Traverse City and make that left turn.
Mm.
that they come all the way down Whitney Road to get to this traffic light and
Mhm.
they're probably frustrated at the point when they hit the pavement. Right, so, yeah, I actually drove that route the other day and I understand why. Yeah. All right, so, you're gonna get some contractors and need to work with Jim on some locations.
Yeah, I'll get the prices and I'll talk to you, Linda, and then you
Okay.
can decide who you want and work with Wendy and do a purchase order and
Yep.
we'll move on.
Okay. Does anybody have any park-related items?
I do.
Okay, you do.
Well, I want to bring up the point that we heard a presentation from the Grand Traverse Land Conservancy about doing a project at Battle Creek in the next funding round. If we're going to be able to do that, we need to have the recreation plan complete. And as we know from the last experience, we need to allow plenty of time for the required requisite public hearings and for resolutions to be adopted and so forth. So I know Jill's not here and Jill's the representative from the board to for parks. And then perhaps Josh as well, but at some point, I think we need to get going on that, get that document, whatever edits need to be made to it, and then get that public hearing started and move forward with adoption and also coordinate, of course, with the Land Conservancy to make sure that that project is properly defined and included in our priority list.
So I need a little refresher on this. Maybe you remember the details. I know there was a draft. And I don't, I know that I thought it was put out for public comment as far as it's published as a draft.
Still on the website.
Yep. Did they have a public hearing?
Yep.
There was a
Park
public,
and Rec had a public hearing.
comments
did.
were generated, and then there was the question about what edits came from after, would follow from the public
You know, there
hearing.
was a lot of rush, but I didn't recall that there was an outpouring of comments from the public.
There were a handful of comments that were generated.
Yep.
So
So-
it wasn't able to get, if I remember correctly, it wasn't able to get edited to the point where it could be a document in front of the board to approve and send to Lansing for.
Okay, but my point is, I don't believe that you're required to have another public hearing unless we make what would be considered substantial change, right?
I think we have to have another one.
I don't know, because the last public hearing would have been done, what, December, whenever that was. If that would count for this, we'd have to check. I would double
Are
check.
you
I guess my point is simply that we don't want to wait till the last moment again to get that plan in and approved and then tee it up for the Land Conservancy to get their project applied for.
And the issues you had with that current plan were just like for grant. I mean, you just wanted to tweak some things in it, or you wanted,
Well, there were a number of comments that were generated at different versions. I think we had a couple of versions or a version or two in October, and that wasn't the right version. And then there was some other back and forth, as I remember. So,
right?
and then I don't know that the board ever really thoroughly reviewed the priority list or the recommended projects in it.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm just throwing it out there. We have time, but I don't want to.
When
Find
is the
ourselves.
Conservancy, they have a fiscal year where they are,
Well, they'll need to be applying in the spring, but in order for that to happen, I believe the rec plan has got to be in by the end of February. Then I think the grant applications are April 1st,
right?
which is a month after that.
So I can follow up with Chris Garrock to just see if there's an update on, their,
Do they still?
so
plan-
they had two things going on. As I recall, they were acquiring I think it's around 140 acre parcel that actually crosses Lossy Trail, and it's in the area of where the bridge is.
Mhm.
And,
But then there was a development project that they were
but then
pursuing.
there was like,
A trail.
yes, an endowment. They were working on getting an endowment, and they talked about we might need a supplemental grant from the state, and that was to establish the sustainable trails that don't have to be mowed constantly. Certainly, I was going to call them also about this backing up of the pond again. And then there was also just implementation using those funding sources of both the endowment from the Land Conservancy as well as maybe some grant money from the state to address the management plan items that have never been done.
If I'm not mistaken, the acquisition funds as well as the development funds are both due April 1st. So there could be two applications going in, one for the acquisition of the land. But I guess I can't remember whether he said that was part of the endowment that they were getting. So it's.
They were
it's
trying to
been-
do private funding possibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but regardless, we need to have our rec plan approved and done and in Lansing well
Well, it
before.
would be a good thing to have him look at the draft rec plan too. That wouldn't be a bad idea. And then I think there's some follow-up with the graphics company
Yeah.
that put things together. I know there was some concerns about editable format, and we'll probably need to touch base with that company. I assume you have a PO. I'm sure you did. You had a,
It's already been done, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but you probably have all the contact
Oh, yeah,
information for
yeah.
them.
Yeah, editing it shouldn't be a problem, but I guess that I'm not sure that project that was identified by
design.
the Land Conservancy was in the rec plan as presented. So
Oh,
I-
it definitely wasn't, because I think
Okay.
it was evolving.
right, it was so that
And it's probably still kind of evolving, I would think. I'm trying to think, Chris was here
yeah.
about 3 months ago.
So then likely all the more reason to have a public hearing on it if there's a project that was not described before suddenly appears in the plan. And so we couldn't rely on a public hearing that left out our number one project. I don't
That
think any,
makes sense to me, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Putting it back on the radar.
Okay, so it seems to me that we should put this on for our next meeting again, just
Yeah.
because Jill will be present.
And have Jill and Josh participating in that
Yeah.
conversation with us about how it gets done, what gets done.
Yeah.
Or the prac too. I don't know where we stand with that.
Okay, any other park related items? Okay, then we'll move on to new business. So I gave each of you guys a quote for a service proposal. So this is called Zoning OS. And so there is a zoning administrator that operates out of Leelanau County that contacted me back in the late April timeframe. Just cold called me and I picked up the phone one day, and he and a company called Blue Water Intelligence have developed basically an AI-based chat that can take documents like your zoning ordinance, your zoning map, um, data from your zoning administrator website, like different files and different resources. And what it can do is allow you to put a button on your website where people can just go to your website and they can click the ask the zoning assistant. And they can hit that button and they can free text enter a question, very similar to different stuff you can do on the internet with different companies. And it'll answer these questions. So we had a meeting, Deb Graber and Randy and I, and it was on Wednesday. And they actually demonstrated the tool to us and explained how it works and what are the documents you put together. And so they are, what they have been doing is it's been used in 3 townships over in Leelanau County that this zoning administrator services. He's been using it as a test case to develop the idea. And now he's offering it to the regional community. So he's contacting all the townships in Grand Traverse County and the other townships in Leelanau County. And so the idea is that it's a resource for both the public can ask a question. You can use it internally, like you guys a minute ago just said, what's the setback for the trash cans? You could use that and just put it in there. The other people that can use it, obviously, it can help lighten the workload of the zoning administrator because questions can be answered quickly and more in-depth questions can come to them. And so I was really pretty surprised. So what they're trying to do is get this off the ground. And so this is a quote where basically you pay a monthly fee of $100. And it's like $150 to set it up. So if we wanted to try this, it would cost us about $1,300. And they are giving a discount right now. What they're trying to do is get 30 townships on board. And obviously, it's still an evolving tool. It'll probably still, have enhancements as time goes on. One other thing that was really great is they built into it a lot of like dashboard metrics, which is really helpful. So like Deb will be able to see exactly how many calls she got or how many times people used it yesterday. And it keeps a log of what questions people asked and what answer the tool provided. So she can check the validity of it. It also will highlight questions that could not be answered, and she can actually start providing an answer for that question. So she can see what are the top questions that are asked. The tool also has, when you just open it up, it's like 4 favorite questions right here, and you can just poke that and get an answer. So
if I can add to that, what I did was actually looked at one of the townships that's operational with this, and I typed in some questions as though I were a property owner in there. And I asked a question like, what kind of permit do I need to put up a shed? Which might be a typical kind of question from a resident. And I was pretty impressed with the answer that it gave me in terms of, yes, you can have a shed. It can't occupy more than this percentage of the lot. It has to be so many feet off the lot line. And if you want to pursue this, here's the form, and contact the zoning administrator with a name and phone number. So it was quite good. There are other questions that weren't as helpful, but it's not meant to replace the zoning administrator, of course. It's just meant to be a way of getting quick answers to something. And so I was generally impressed with how this set up. It's an AI-based thing, so it's evolving certainly, and it's more than likely the future in many respects, I would think, when you can put your document in there. I will make one point though, and I want this to point this out, is that 18 months ago, we couldn't have done this because we didn't have one zoning document. We had a binder, we had missing amendments, we had no zoning map, we had confusion about what the ordinance required. Now we don't have that. So we're able to take advantage of this kind of system here and be able to get clear, straight answers to residents as best as the technology will allow us to do that. So
it was interesting too. One thing that I found kind of interesting is they actually had some data too about how many of these questions get typed in like after hours or on weekends. So, zoning administrator has normal work hours. Yeah. And even though she's very gracious to answer the phone a lot of times at odd times, it's interesting how many people are trying to work on these projects off hours. And so they can at least get some information right away. And the other thing is this system does have the ability prior to us going live with it for you to actually test it. So Deb will be able to test this ahead of time and put in like whatever she thinks are the 5 favorite questions that people ask and type it in there and make sure that it's spitting out the right answer before she goes live with it. And they also said that they suggest that you put this button several places. You know how we have several layers of our website, that you would be able to place it several layers, like within the zoning administrator's page, on the planning commission page, on these different places where people might look. A lot of people have trouble getting through all of our menus. Like they have a hard time. So, and they said in their case, they actually try and we've been talking about website enhancements. They try and put it like right on the main page. So, you know, so I've had some discussion with Randy and some email discussion with Deb, and all three of us think that this is worth a try for $1,300. This is the quote, and then they would like us to sign a 1-year contract. And so, you know, I have to look at that yet. It was more lengthy. They told me it was a real simple contract, but it was about 11 pages long. I don't consider that simple. So anyway.
How are you gonna let people know it exists?
Well, I would say certainly, you know, we can do newsletters. We have a newsletter that'll
Just
come out in the
one,
fall.
but So we're gonna have it for 6 months before we do
Yeah.
another newsletter.
Well, we usually do the next newsletter in the fall in September-ish.
There is an option. July tax bills, well, we won't have it all
Too
ready
soon
by
for
then.
that, but we could send it out in some way or do a postcard. But I think the point is that it can also be used by planning commission members when they're doing you know, they have resources when they're gonna do a special use or a site plan review. But I think it helps with just educating people internally. I have people ask me questions all the time. I get speed recording. You need to talk to Deb. I always tell them you need to talk to Deb, but it would be nice if I could tell them of a tool that they could also use to explore.
I think the other aspect of it might explore some areas where other clarifications are needed in our zoning ordinance, like
Yes,
if
um,
people are asking a similar question and they're not getting a good answer immediately, maybe the ordinance could be improved to be
Mhm.
more specific, because that's probably one of the key parts of the zoning ordinance that should be in place, is that it is clear and understandable and readable by people.
Yeah, and I think he did actually send me a subsequent email that I need to forward to you and Deb, where he did a brief analysis of our zoning ordinance. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, I mean, to me, this is pretty cool, but I think this is actually even more cool to know what you might be able to do as far as a chat bot for our entire website to start seeking information. You know, it's kind of similar to the info pages that Jim built for us, but this thing was pretty amazing. I'm happy to, you know, send the link to you. So there's like a demo online you can look at. It's a 20-minute demo, but I was pretty impressed, and I thought it was worth the risk of small amount of money.
So I was impressed when I actually tried to write in a question and I got the answers right back, much in a really complete. Then the other aspect is that it's a consistent answer. You know, that you get
Yeah.
pretty much the same answer from when you type in a similar question. So that eliminates any information being missed inadvertently or.
Yeah, and Deb can see what was asked, what was the answer, and then there's a way for her to work through that and customize that if that's not exactly the way she wants it answered, you know? So it's a way to just kind of keep monitoring how it all goes. So what do you guys think? Are you guys supportive of
Do we
this?
need to vote on it or you just?
You know, it's below the threshold, but I thought it was an important enough thing. It would require some coordination with Jim at Brick House.
Mhm.
They
I've already
claim
spoke to
that
him.
everything interfaces.
Hmm.
I did ask them to double check and check our website, because I know that Jim's talking about moving the platform our website is on.
So I talked to him extensively today, and I happened to have already gotten that email, so I told him about it. And so I was gonna bring that up in discussion a little bit about the website too, so.
Okay.
But I'm not opposed to this at all. I'm not really crazy about the use of AI. But I think it's beneficial. And I also get those phone calls, you know, that I have to say, here's Deb's number.
Mhm. So I would just say that, yeah, I mean, and then if we don't like it, you know, it was an experiment, and I know I read the contract really quickly, and you just have to give them a 30-day notice to suspend service after 1
Yeah.
year.
I do think we ought to recognize that it's going to take some upfront work from Deb to be able to get this up and running. I don't think it's a matter of handing them the zoning ordinance and then next day it's
Yeah.
all up there. There's going to be questions and there's going to be issues, but hopefully that's not a long process. And in the long run, it's saving Deb time.
And I think part of that is actually doing the testing to see if it's giving I'm sure if we get into this and it gives
We
us
can-
garbage
Right, we can all
answers,
be
then
really
I'm sure you
adjusting.
can.
Well, I guess we do have to, as a board, approve a contract, right? Special,
Yes.
so we should have a motion for that.
Okay, well, I can make a motion to proceed to sign the contract with zoning OS for the zoning assistant tool.
I'll second that motion.
And
You
I would
including
like
the
to
dollar
amend
amount?
my motion. Hang on, let me amend my motion, after legal review. I mean, I just, so if you, would you like to read that back
Yes.
before we second that?
Would, thank you. Just a moment.
She wanted a dollar amount there somewhere.
Hmm.
I don't think you need it. It's just a month-to-month contract. Or 1-year contract.
It is 1 year, and then after that, I believe it moves to month to month.
Ms. Lobsama made a motion to sign the contract with zoning OS for the zoning tool after legal review. Milnick seconded.
I'm
I
good.
think that's okay. All right, all those in favor?
I,
Okay.
Those opposed? All right, none opposed. All right, moving on. We have no tabled items, announcements, next board meeting, June 25th, 9 AM. Special meeting on civil infraction is June 30th, 2026 at 6 PM, Elk Rapids Governmental Center. Any other board announcements?
Cleanup day Saturday.
Oh, yes, cleanup day, Saturday, 8 AM to noon, right?
Yep.
Or until it's full.
No, it's really 8 AM to noon. They go back and come back with dumpsters of
Empty dumpsters.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think we're up to second public comment. Any more public comment today?
Mike Jacobson, the Ski Point Road. Tim, about your wanting to drain the pond, the Battle Creek Natural Area was obtained because citizens in Whitewater Township requested it. If you look into it, you will find that homeowners around the south end of Elk Lake initiated the project and wrote letters to the DNR in support of this purchase. Getting rid of the pond on this part of that purchase would be a disservice to the community, being as it is one of, if not, the most beautiful attraction of that parkland. On your bulletin board outside the door, I'm going to read to you what it says. The Whitewater Township Board will meet in regular sessions for the second and fourth Thursdays of the month for the 2026-2027 fiscal year on the following dates at 6:30 PM at the Whitewater Township Hall. There's only one date listed, and there is no mention of the morning meetings or time of the morning meetings listed. I believe this is wrong. I believe it's against the rules, and it has been that way for a long time. Number 3, I hope that the complaints about citizens who will have the civil infraction ordinance levied against them is public information. As I understand the law, a person has the right to know who their accuser is. If the township staff is not finding these alleged infractions themselves, then there is an accuser. If these complaints are public information, I respectfully request a copy of this list on a monthly basis. And I'd like to know if there's any kind of paperwork I got to fill out to make that happen. Number 4. Many people ask me about what is happening with the allegation of the clerk paying herself without authorization. I would encourage you to give the public an update in the interest of transparency. transparency is obviously on their mind because most of these people also make the comment that they think there are people on the board that tried to hide this from the public. Number 5, about your speed sign on Skigmog Point Road. It should be closer to the highway. I would say within the first 3/4 of a mile. I only live a half a mile off the highway and the cars are going by my place over the speed limit. Not all of them, but many of them. And as the summer months go on, it will only get worse. So it's my hope that the whole road will benefit from the speed sign, not just the people on the end. I mean, we all deserve to have our neighborhood protected. I watched my little sister get hit on a bike right in front of the house that I live in when I was young. There's 3 beautiful little girls across the road living there right now. I'd hate to have to watch that again. And I can't tell you how many pets I've seen get run over in a half a mile stretch on either side of my road, my yard. So I would hope that you can encourage this placement to be closer to the highway. I understand putting it right at the highway doesn't make sense. But after they come over the top of that hill, they got the pedal down if they're headed for the end of the road. Some of them, not all of them. So please protect all of us. Thank you for your time and energy.
All right, would anybody else like to make a public comment? All right, now we have board discussion. Wendy, I think you mentioned you had an item.
So I actually had an extensive discussion with Jim from Brick House about the website today. And just some of the basic ideas we both had bouncing each other, going through different websites he had already done. Some of his ideas of what he wanted to change, that kind of thing. He's very hesitant to do anything until we give him more feedback of what exactly each of us would like to see in the website. So I told him I would put it together some questions that we both agreed upon, and I would ask each of you your ideas about certain things and how you wanted to see things, and then he was going to start doing things. I also told him about the AI bot possibility, and he was like that he needed to know that before he could start. So he's worried about starting and then having to redo stuff. So we're going to get all of our ducks in a row first, and I'll be reaching out to each of you to see, just a little feedback.
So do we need to have that on the 6:25 agenda also?
Sure.
Question.
Go ahead.
So would it be appropriate, I mean, some of the complaints that I've heard, I mean, I have some issues that I want to see fixed, but I've heard complaints, not so much recently, but early on after we were elected from the public, the navigation of our was
Right.
solicit from the public, pick a board member to give your feedback to.
Right.
To say, this is what we want changed, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, because we're not gonna know everything that they
Right.
don't like.
That was my point, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm trying to get the feedback from each of you. And he said everybody can complain. That doesn't really help him, you know what I mean? So we need more specific feedback. And so I'm gonna email you some specific things that we were talked about so that we can get your feedback.
Even the search button doesn't work.
Right.
But if there's people in the
Needs to
public
work.
that navigate to sites that they do really like, government sites, right? Tell us about them so we can look at them.
Which I pointed out to him, the Elk Rapids Village. I think that's a very searchable site. It has, a scrolling thing. It has all the most recent things that people want to look at. Has documents, how to pay your taxes, it has everything right there. So,
I think sometimes too, like, somebody mentioned earlier today, getting all the calls about cleanup day. I had numerous of those
Right.
and several even just today.
and it's on the front page,
And
but it's just hard to
I sat
find.
there and read the flyer to them, but the thing was, I think they didn't understand they could click the text and that it would pop up,
Mhm.
and it's just like,
Mhm.
so I think we have to think about this. I guess I don't know for sure how many of the people actually had gone to the website and tried to find it. I'm not sure. But
True.
I know it's been posted outside the door here for quite a
Mhm.
while. So it's just
Sometimes easier to ask.
Yeah, but trying to figure out how people can find just, I know I've several times had people, and I know you've started doing this on the front page too, is in the past, I've had people trying to come to a meeting because they've heard about a meeting, but they can't figure out where to find the information on the
Correct,
meeting.
yeah.
Because like that particularly, I mean, it's for any of the meeting because you have to dig into the sub menus. I know where it is, but I'm in there every day.
Right. And that's kind of the thing we were talking about too, is like what actually needs to be on there, kind of,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, and versus getting that search button, like every once in a while, somebody will say, I want to see a survey from 4 years ago, and being able to still find
Right.
that.
So he did, I did ask him to, can you look and see which things are getting most clicked on?
Oh, that'd be a good idea.
And zoning is one of them. So
It's 50 it's
agendas, planning
100
commission, zoning.
Yes, a year,
Yes.
and that doesn't include the
Right.
ones that never get a permit.
Yep.
What about the ones that didn't get a permit? Or the ones that changed their mind?
Yep.
So she probably gets 150, I don't know, I'll ignore. Yeah, so. Okay.
So
I
I'm
think
clear
that's
here,
good.
Wendy, you're going to send us all an individual email asking
Yeah.
us for our concerns about the website. and then-
No, so I'm gonna give you specific ideas that Jim and I had, and I want your feedback on what you think we should implement.
Okay.
Okay. There might be some cost implications with the search function in there in terms of what's stored in there, how far back you can go in terms of,
He already has that part built actually from an info website, so, yeah, it's more of the productivity of how it looks and, you know, what you think should be on the front page or that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, he told me that too. He said, I don't really, it's not a benefit, like she said, to tell me what you don't like. I know you don't like it.
Right.
Tell me what you want to see. What do you like?
well, to get constructive solutions is sometimes the challenge here.
Right.
You know, you can say, I don't like it, I
Exactly.
can't get this here.
And to
I
talk
can't
his
find-"
language too.
So honestly, I really think having some kind of a chat bot on there too, but
Mhm.
can actually look at that data and give you some direction.
Which he and I talked about that. So the Elk Rapids Village has a how do I, and then it will populate, with a drop down. So,
Yeah. Well, and you use a lot of the stuff on BSNA, right? So you have experience with that. Okay. All right, anybody have other issues they want to bring up?
I would just mention there's going to be a flow of information coming from the planning commission with regard to proposed zoning amendments that have been being worked on. The planning commission meets again July 1st, and there'll be likely some actions that'll be taken that which would line up for the town board action on July 9th.
Okay.
And some are being held back, some are going forward. There's probably 6 or 7 topics out there that are, but obviously you have to go through the proper process here. And there's also been a discovery of a issue with regard to consistency with the zoning enabling act that is old legacy language that we're going to try to fix.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about just briefly the pond issue that was brought up by 2 people tonight. So I took a note here. That's my other have to do right away tomorrow morning is I'll contact so we have a maintenance agreement with the county conservancy. But I would like to ask Chris Garak at the land conservancy as well. I misspoke. The conservation district is who we have a contract with to maintain the parkland. And then I want to make sure Chris Garak knows about that as well. I guess in talking about safety issues there, I think the other safety issue that we talked about, I think during the Chris Garak presentation was I can't remember, Mike might be able to help me here. It wasn't it was a duck blind, not for fishing, but a duck blind. And I know that was in bad shape 12, 15 years ago. I can't imagine. I haven't put my foot in there in more than 10 years.
It's still standing, but I wouldn't trust.
I think that's dangerous, honestly. And I think we should think about, you know, potentially if we need to have that removed. And so I do think we need to have some assessment done. I do know last year when we had problems with the overflow, we also had the county drain commissioner. We engaged him. So that's another resource. Although he seems to be on every committee lately with the county. He's got quite a bit on his plate, but he might have a recommendation on that. And, you know, clearly it seems like the plugging problem's getting more frequent. So we need to do something.
And I just want to clarify, I did not say I wanted to drain the pond. I was just asking if anyone knew why it was there in the first place. And then if it wasn't there, if there was going to be like some negative issue about it. That was all.
I think
But I'm not advocating to drain the pond.
there is, you know, there is a huge process through the state to have to go through to ever do something like that. Yes, Mike.
The part of the reason the plugging seems to be more frequent now is due to the fact that Denny Leach is no longer with us. Denny Leach used to, I don't know if he had an agreement with somebody here in the office or what, but Denny used to go down. I think him and Ron Pop had some kind of arrangement or agreement or handshake deal or something. And Denny used to go down there regularly and service it. And that's what it needs. And if a new grate was made that covers the standpipe, not the grate that covers the top of the concrete abutment, but just the grate that covers the standpipe was made with bigger holes in it, it would eliminate probably 75 or 80% of the problem. It's not going to eliminate the big logs or sticks or the big brush, but the leaves could then get through and the pond scum could then get through. Like a 4-inch hole or a 3-inch hole would allow the smaller debris to get through, because that's the stuff that's plugging it. The pond scum, the reeds, the broken off reeds, you know, leaves in the fall, those, or even this time of year when a storm comes through and blows a bunch of leaves out of the trees. Everything that lands in that pond ends up at the downpipe because it's naturally flowing that way all the time. So somebody needs to be, you know, dedicated down there to keep an eye on it.
Okay, so does anybody else at the board have anything to add to that? I mean, my plan was to contact the normal people that we do with the conservation and the conservancy, and then see if Andy Spetz has anything to add to it as the drain commissioner. He might have a recommendation as to somebody that could help us with the grade. Okay, the last thing I want to bring up is there was a suggestion from the public about advertising our special meeting on June 30th. So how does the board feel about that? We do now have the Elk Rapids News being delivered to the entire township. I'm not sure if Island Lake gets it, but about 90% of the township now gets it.
It'll still be a public notice, so
Yeah.
it'll be,
I'd put it out there.
So Wendy, can you handle that?
of course, yeah.
Okay.
As long as it specifies it's about civil infraction.
Mhm.
Okay. Does anybody have,
Is that,
anybody have anything else they wanna, I'm sorry,
I
Kay?
need clarification on that. It was nothing. No, it was just discussion because it's a public notice. It still has to be put in the public notice.
Yeah, we don't have to vote on it.
Not technically a legal notice, you're just sending out a notice that you're putting a
Yeah,
notice.
To
in.
be notified of a special meeting anyway.
Yeah, you have your normal stuff, but this will be something, okay, in the newspaper. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Aaron's.
Second, Melnick.
And Melnick second, all those in favor?